Welcome to How to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Let's explain Konami New Ideas 2025.
Chapter 1.
Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be starting a new Let's Explain series, which I'll be doing once a year, starting this year in 2025, exploring Konami's new ideas. Here's where I cover a card that's come out in a set in the year. Try to explain what the new idea that Konami is going for and how it just doesn't work. Where the idea is nice in theory, but in practice, it just doesn't work. But it doesn't mean that if the idea is not expanded upon and improved upon, it could not do something that's quite interesting. With that being said, let's get on with the rest of the video.
Chapter 2.
Okay, so let's talk about the card that you can see in front of you, Liberator Etho. So let's read that effect. Cannot be normal summon / set. Must be special summon from your hand or graveyard by paying half your life points, while your opponent has a monster card in their field or graveyard with an effect that activates in the hand or monster zone in response to a card or effect activation. You can only special summon Liberator Etho once per turn. This way, this card's special summon cannot be negated. This face-up card cannot be used as material for a fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link summon. Also during your turn only, it is unaffected by monster effects activated on your opponent's field. So, let's talk about it. So, what is the general purpose and idea that Konami has with this card? You got to remember, this is a card that was released in the first set of this year. So, first set of this year, it was a secret, right? So I look at this card and let's think about the thought process, okay? Going second in Yu-Gi-Oh is really quite difficult, and I think Konami's known this for a while, right? And hand traps are a thing that just everyone is playing right now. So the concept of Liberator Etho is definitely not new, but how it is applied is definitely is an interesting way of doing it. So in theory, how it's meant to work is the player going second uses the opponent activates a typical hand trap, Ash Blossom, Ghost Mourner, Ghost Haunted, whatever. Then you would respond, obviously, with special summoning this card. Mind you, you would pay half your life points, but the point is, you'd special summon this card. Now, the fact that this card can't be negated is a huge bonus. And have to remember that this card is a 4,000 attack monster, right? So not only do you have 4,000 guaranteed on the board, but the theory is your opponent shouldn't be able to respond to this with monster effects, as they would have a series of monsters, as you're going second. So it couldn't be killed by, other hand traps like Ghost Ogre and the like, meaning that hand traps aren't going to kill it. Either way, they couldn't be able to use spells or traps with it. So in theory, because they can't fuse with it, so they can't super poly this card because it can't be used for fusion, XYZ, synchro, or link. So they can't take control of it to link it off. So far, this is looking to be quite interesting. So in the sense of you're going second, your opponent can't take control of this or use it for extra deck climbing because it's immune to that. It can't be used, it can't be super polyed away because again, you got that going for it. It's unaffected by monster effects. So all this is really good, right? It is. So what's the problem? Well, in practice, it doesn't really work like that. What you've really done now when we see this card in practice is that you've just summoned a 4,000 attack monster after your opponent has activated a hand trap going second. It's a level 8 monster, sure, that's great. But all you've done is you've put a level 8 4,000 beater on the field that's just a big idiot. and it's not really gaining you advantage, it's not really doing you anything. And here's where we get to see that this idea needs to be cooked a little bit more. And in my personal opinion, I like this idea. I think this idea can go very far. I like the concept of a monster that can be special summoned when your opponent activates a lot of monster effects. I like the idea, right, that you are able to special summon this set monster and just go for game, theoretically anyway, so that you can sort of combat the fact that your opponent is activating a lot of hand traps. I think the concept of you being able to do this and to punish your opponent activating loads of hand traps against you, because in Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment there's no really any way to punish hand trap abuse at the moment. There really isn't. So the concept of Liberator Etho is fantastic. The execution, however, it leaves a lot to be desired. But that's not to say that there's anything wrong with Liberator Etho. I think in the future this card could be used in something. But I think for now it is a bit undercooked, and I think this is a concept that needs to be Konami needs to cook with this a bit more, and there is something that can come out of this. Like for example, maybe to have it that it can still be activated, right? But to say that your opponent can't, it's not affected by you spells or traps as well. I think that would push this card to a whole new medium, and I think it would therefore be usable. If the card, for example, said had the same clause, cannot be normal summoned or set, must fetch yourself from your hand, a graveyard, paying off your life points. We know that. And it also then said that it's unaffected by spells, traps, and monster effects activated on your opponent's side of the field. That would be huge, because then that would therefore mean that they wouldn't be able to use Regeki or anything like that to this card, right? That would also mean that you would have an ability to be able to summon this quite easily. And you could make two of them and then go for game. I think having two 4,000 attack beaters on your side of the field, I don't think it's a hard once per turn. I think you can have multiple copies and special summon it in its own way. But the point is that this could be able to just crash into monsters, right? Also, again, you wouldn't be able to worry about spells or traps on your opponent's side of the field, and it would just be a great big idiot that could just crash and go for game. Because sometimes we need very simple things. I think currently in Yu-Gi-Oh, we really don't have a strong generic boss monster that can just go for game going second, because a lot of hand traps or a lot of spells or traps are able to get rid of it. But if there was a way to just bring it out easily, as with Liberator Etho's summoning condition, I think it could do wonders for the game. Obviously a bit tweaked, another version of this card, but that's about it. Let's head on to the conclusion.
Final chapter.
Okay, so here I am at the conclusion. So, what I want to say about Liberator Etho? Well, Konami has a really nice idea here. Now, sure, this idea has failed, but that doesn't mean to say that the idea is fruitless and that it is the wrong way to go. I think it is the right way to go personally. Again, the the ability to be able to special summon a monster when a hand trap is activated, there is nothing wrong with this idea. Um, the fact that you pay half your life points, again, there's nothing wrong with that idea. I think part of the issue, what's wrong with this, is that the payoff for this is not enough. I mean, the fact is that you can use this, it's not affected by your opponent's activated effects. I feel it should also have said it is also unaffected by spells or traps. Obviously on your turn only. The point of this is to just have a monster, right, that you can use going second. Right? That's 4,000 attack. It's immune to all spells and traps and monster effects for that turn only, meaning you can just easily and quickly go for game. I think you need something simple. You need something that is just immune to stuff. But most importantly, you need a card like this to disincentivize, right? Playing a lot of hand traps. I think you get where we are at the moment. Hand traps have just dominated the game, and I think what a version of Liberator Etho, obviously an evolved version, could do, right? The way I see it, if they create a similar card to this again, but improved with more things, that you could go second with this card, a card similar to this, improved upon, be able to just go for game. Because again, the idea of Liberator Etho is the idea of helping you going second. And let's not kid ourselves. In Yu-Gi-Oh, we have a going second is a problem. Hence, this is why we have the Malchamis are created, and this is why we use hand traps in the first place. But I think the concept of Liberator Etho is fantastic. The idea behind this is good. It is a natural way, I think, of going second that doesn't break the game, right? It feels natural, it feels right. It's part of the reason why I've got 2 copies of this card and I'm gonna get a 3rd playset, because I think there is a place for Liberator Etho. I think this is the way we should go forward when it comes to going second cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially for monsters. I think the concept of just hand traps, I think, should be faded away, and I think monsters similar to Liberator Etho, obviously with effects that are more improved and fine-tuned, this being like, an example, but is a step in the right direction. And that's what I want to say about Liberator Etho. It's a nice idea from Konami. Hopefully we can see more such ideas, and in later videos I'll be talking about, next year we'll be talking about a card they release, and a new idea and why it has failed and how it could be better. Well, that's all I've got to say in this video. Hope to see you soon.
We come to the end of this video. So, as I like to say, you are one step closer to becoming a Yu-Gi-Oh master. My fate, right, is in your hands.